Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm headed over to WMPR, get on the Creator Calhoun show. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. You know, I am completely in a place of shock, a place of amazement, because I'm amazed that there's no outrage about what's taking place in and around this city. For those who don't know, I am in Jackson, Mississippi. I am in Hinds County. And I want to tell everybody, I want you to understand something. No one does anything of significance without fighting for it, right? It's impossible to do anything of significance without being willing to fight for it, being willing to go for it. And, you know, if it was easy, everybody would do it. But there's some things that I'm just absolutely amazed and outraged by what's happening. And, boy, I'm blown away by it. But here's what I'm really blown away by. I'm blown away by that there's no collective outrage. There's no collective outrage on what's taking place. Let me take you back to one, y'all. All right, so last year, there was a young lady in the old Christian Brotherhood apartments. She and her daughter were asleep. They were asleep in their beds, and she was shot by an officer. She was shot through apartment complexes, and she was shot. Today, the judge threw her attorney out of court as she filed suit. But what the judge said was that there was no liability because they were not trying to shoot her. In other words, the problem is that it's not a matter of whether they were trying to shoot her. The issue is she got shot because of the recklessness of the police. So the police now in Jackson, Mississippi are allowed to shoot people who are sleeping in their beds, have nothing to do with any crime of any kind of way, and she's shot. There's no restitution. There's nothing. So Miss Tasha Smith, who carries a bullet in her arm, she and her 8-year-old daughter carry trauma from what has taken place, but yet there's no accountability of what took place. So there's no accountability for her being shot by the police. I am blown away by that. That means that police officers, and in this instance, Capitol Police, shot Tasha Smith while in her bed. There's no liability. And you might say, well, there's no liability, but she has a bullet in her arm. What if she would have been killed? What if her daughter would have been shot in the head? And here's the problem. The problem is, Harrison, Dr. Harrison Michael, the problem is the police don't shoot in the apartments in Fondren. They don't shoot in the apartments in Northeast Jackson. They're not shooting recklessly through buildings. And maybe somebody will say, well, that's her own problem. So you blame her being shot for being poor? She was unable to go back to work. And for those of you that don't think House Bill 1020 is going to cause us problems, for those of you that don't think these are serious matters, or for those of you that say, well, it doesn't impact me, that could have been either one of you or your children or your grandchildren. And because of recklessness and a lack of concern for the poor and disenfranchised in this state of Mississippi and Jackson, Mississippi, Tasha Smith carries a bullet in her arm, and basically what the court said today, that nobody's responsible in the police department, and the cop, the police officer that perpetrated this crime is responsible. I am blown away by that. I was asked a question today. The question was, do I have an axe to grind against the Capitol Police? Let me tell you something about me. I don't have an axe to grind against anyone. I'm built different from that. But what I do have a problem with is when disenfranchised, poor, the least of these people are treated with such a total disregard. I'm outraged by that. But you know what I'm more outraged by? I'm more outraged by our community. And that's just one case. Another case is the young men that were snatched out of their cars, kicked in the head, held in jail until their swelling went down, and then let loose. Another case that has me outraged is Jalen Lewis. They killed him. They shot and killed him. Basically, he was massacred. But there's been no report, no statement, nothing. You know why, Miss Mary Sparrow? Because there's a flagrant disregard for black and brown people. And here's where I put icing on the cake. Icing on the cake is here, is that these people that do what's being done. I was told that after I exposed the issue with Jalen Lewis, I was told to watch my back. There was a bullseye on my back. And other police officers told me that. And they said, if they can't get you, they're going to get your children. So sure enough, only 2 weeks after hearing about that, they completely harassed my son. And you know, my son is dealing with trauma because of it, pain because of it. Not only that, personally, and after much prayer and consideration, we decided to let it go. Maybe he made a mistake. Let me tell you where it gets worse. I received paperwork yesterday or last week that the officer, the main officer that did what he did, that harassed my son, falsely arrested my son, took my son to undisclosed location without permission, without authority, had his car towed, everything. No real charges, but then he comes back now and he's suing me because I told the truth about him. And he's conspired with his other fellow officers to put a fake report together. You know why? Because that's the culture of what we're dealing with. It's unbelievable. I'm outraged by what's happening, and I'm truly blown away that black people, African American people, you can see these injustices happening and nobody's outraged by it. Let me tell you something. I'm outraged by the violence in our community. You know what? I've been involved in helping for almost 30 years. The first funeral of a baby I did was a young baby shot while sleeping in her home. I was a teacher at Rowan Middle School. Her mother worked in the food service department at Rowan, and she asked me to do the funeral. So it's no doubt that what's happening in our community is horrible, and we got to fight to make it better. But let's understand where this state legislature and my opponent for state senate, they strip the resources out of our community. Guess where the bulk of the 1% sales tax goes? And for those that are not from here, the 1% sales tax is money that was set aside and set up to help the city, but over half of it is used between Fondren and the Bellhaven areas. That's where my opponent lives. So the money is being funneled into the affluent communities while the poor communities are continuing to suffer. Every day I'm talking to people. Every day I'm talking to people who've given their life in this city. And they've thrown in the towel. They've given up. They've given up because they don't believe anybody wants to fight with them. I want every one of you that's thinking about giving up, I want you to hear my words right now. Giving up is not in my DNA. Quitting is not in my DNA. All I know to do is keep pressing. All I know to do is keep going. I will not take my own people. Just my brother. I refuse to stop my own people. So, I'm going to DNPR. I'm going to go live for a moment. Hope you're joining. I tell you, with Christ, and we are with collective outrage. We are satisfied.